Hello everyone, and welcome to my review of the WinCtrl, what used to be WinWing, Orion Metal Flight Rudder pedals with the Dampener. Now this set of pedals was sent to me by WinCtrl for the purposes of review, but no other payment, and they're very open that they just want an honest review. But with all that said, as always, do take that in mind when looking at reviews. So as for what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be looking at what I'm comparing this to, what my current setup is, looking through the initial setup and then my initial feeling of just messing around with them, and then we'll be going through some discussion about how I've felt actually trying these things out in quite a lot of flight in DCS. So let's jump in and see what I'm going to be comparing all of this against during the review. So to show where I'm coming from, my current pedals are these Thrustmaster pendular rudders, and I really like these ones. I've used them for many years now. They do have rather a large vertical footprint. They're really quite tall. The nice thing about these is they have this pendular motion mimicking the kind of movement that you would actually do in a real aircraft there. Very nice, very easy to keep a nice, decent position. Comes with a range of different springs at the back that you can mess around with for different positioning. Toe brakes on each one feel absolutely fine, and these feel nice and comfortable to rest your feet on. It's a little higher than you might be used to, but I really like these. I've had them, as I said, for ages. So this is what I'm going to be comparing them against. Before that, I had a set of Cytec pedals, which were okay. They were very much a beginner set of pedals. Now, a little bit of a pain with the setup is that it doesn't actually tell you how to connect these funny little bits. These are little metal sections that run from the foot pedal, and they're supposed to connect to the Hall sensor at back here. Instructions make no mention of setting this up at all. They seem to think it should be already installed, but they do come safely covered. What you're going to want to do is just underneath the Hall sensor section, there's this little screw here, which we can just take off. It's lightly put in, so you can just finger remove it. And then you want to take the bolt that just fell out, put it through the hole, line it all up, which does require a little bit of forcing against the pedal, and then you can bolt that in. And again, you can just finger tighten it. It does come with a supplied Allen key to get it a lot tighter. It's a little bit fiddly just with the room. Would have been a lot easier to do this before putting on the base plate. But as I said, the instructions didn't tell me to do that, so I'm only realizing now. Now, what the instructions do mention is that you can adjust the angle of the foot pedal by moving where the other end of this control arm lines up with one of these positions, whether you want the footrest to be naturally further back or further up. Got it in the middle position here for testing. These, just in comparison with kind of initial feel, notably unlike the Thrustmaster, where the movement is rolling back and forth. Here we are twisting as we go as well. Now, some people will prefer this. A lot of systems do this. Others slide straight back and forth. This has a very different feel to it with this kind of rotation as you're going. Now, I have initially set this up just with the spring and without the central dampener, just to get a kind of a feel of what these feel like. Equally, in terms of feel, the actual pedal units here are metal. They feel quite nice against socks. They've not got quite the same grip level as my Thrustmaster ones. These have a nice built-in grip that's lasted very well. These do have a little bit of a grip here, but it's all rather more smooth and polished. It probably feels better against bare skin if you're flying without socks or anything on, but maybe a little bit more slippy if you're using socks, so take that as you will. Otherwise, with the default spring here, motion feels absolutely fine. You've got nice easy centering, you can feel it centering nice and happily there with spring. You can give it deflection without too much. It is just a little bit of a different motion compared to what I'm used to. It's this rotating motion, which is going to take a little bit for me to get used to. And with the dampener on, that definitely improves the overall feel of this. Still twists with that kind of normal twisting motion, but now it's a lot smoother going throughout that. Very easy to hold precise points. It will center. You can still definitely feel the center position because of this spring here in the perfect center position. That kind of clicks shut and you do feel some vibration going through, so you do know where center is, but you can push around that just a little tick as it's going through. Again, we can adjust this. I've got it quite high right now. I can turn that down. It'll feel more like without the dampener. Without that, it becomes a lot freer to move back and forth. Big pig noise is slightly alarming. Becomes a lot freer to move back and forth. You feel the centering a lot more without the dampener. There we can see we've got a nice smooth return. Now here I have it set up with the dampener unit and without the central spring. And this is definitely a very interesting way of having this. We can adjust the dampener levels just by turning this little screw. So we turn one way to lower the dampener and it gets freer and freer in its movement. Or we can pump that right up to the max, in which case this is nice. You can still move this quite easily. I'm not really pushing very hard here, but I do have to apply some amount of force to move this. But without the spring there, it's going to keep its location. And this definitely interests me in terms of flying helicopters, because this not only doesn't have a spring, so it's not going to try and center. I can take my feet off, and with the dampener there, that's perfectly going to keep that position. And so for kind of getting your rudder trim on a helicopter, this seems like that's going to be really, really nice. Now, the spring is quite easy to put on or take off. Got this little thing, it's got a nice little handle to help you. You just clip one section on, and then it's just a case of using some muscle and pulling this back and over the other cone. The cones are pointed, so it kind of clips on there. There we go, I've fitted that. Very nicely, if you want to get the spring off, nice and simple, just grab this thing, pull it right off. It does have this little T bolt here, which locks the gear. All you need to do to activate it is pull this up, twist it to the side. There you go, you've now got a nice usable set of pedals. If you do want to lock it for whatever reason, say you want to use this for racing, you can just flip that in really quick to lock and unlock your axis. It does have a little rest there, so hopefully this shouldn't slip while you're using it. I will just have to experiment and see if I do occasionally catch that. I do just briefly want to talk about the software here. We do have integration with the SimApp Pro software. There isn't a huge amount here, but as with all of the other WinCtrl pieces, this is all integrated. You can check, make sure everything is working nicely with the various axes. You can configure the various axes if you want to alter how far you need to travel. so you can reduce the range. And that goes hand in hand with the other thing of the rubber stopper that helps stop it going beyond there. So you can absolutely set it that you only need to push it, say, so far, and it will count as 100% of the motion. There are little backlight settings here for reasons. There's not a lot, and honestly, you don't tend to look at your feet while you're playing, but I have messed around with this and I've got it, so as I push the little pedals down, lights come on. One thing that is worth mentioning here is there are options to set buttons. By default, there are 2 buttons that are triggered. One for fully depressing the right brake, one for fully depressing the left brake. These get picked up as button inputs, and you can use these for whatever you want in DCS. You can also set other buttons here to have other settings that come on under certain axis positions. So there I've got a button that comes on at about 3/4 and then goes off. Now I don't particularly want that, so I'm just going to go ahead, disable that. I honestly haven't found a particular use for these. I can maybe see them being useful on things that don't let you bind axes. So, for example, I know there are a couple of DCS modules that don't have an axis on the brake, and so you can instead set full depression, or at least like 3/4 depression, as being the on button there, and having that as just a switch on and off. The main reason I'm bringing all of this up is mostly a DCS thing. As you probably know, DCS auto tries to bind any new device with a set of default controls. Button 1 is normally fire primary weapons, button 2 is fire secondary weapons. And that can cause some issues here because by default in DCS, if you've not done anything else, you stand on the right brake, and what is going to happen is your guns are going to fire. Now, that's fine for most aircraft with a ground safety, but every now and then you might come across an aircraft without a ground safety, especially some Second World War aircraft, and so you're taxiing around on the ground, you stamp on the right pedal to make a turn, and all of a sudden you're filling your teammates with bullets. 2 easy ways to overcome this. The easiest one is just to go to this panel and just disable those 2 if you're not going to use them at all. The other one is go to DCS and just make sure that for each module you've cleared the default bindings for this rudder pedals. So then on to the real meat of the review. What is this like to actually fly? I've been testing this in DCS with a whole range of different aircraft. First, I'm going to go through looking at this from flying fixed-wing aircraft. For all of the fixed wing, I was pretty much just using the spring along with the dampener. I did test out warbirds just using the dampener without the spring, because I thought, well, maybe that might be quite nice to kind of hold that trimmed position for aircraft that don't have rudder trim. That just completely confused me and threw me completely off. But putting the spring in all worked fine. Now here, using the spring and the dampener on fixed-wing aircraft, I've got to say I was impressed. I honestly wasn't expecting myself to be particularly impressed with these. As I mentioned earlier, I really love my Thrustmaster pendular rudders. They're really comfortable to use. I've had them for years, so all of that muscle memory's there. That's what I'm used to using. And the motion here with these wing control pieces is very different, that kind of twisting motion. Now you can deploy little rubber stops to restrict its range of motion, so it's a little more forward and back and a little less side to side, and I was planning on doing that. But honestly, after a session using these for PvP flyouts, I completely forgot that I was using new rudders. And I think that's the best compliment you can really give a set of rudders. I wasn't thinking about these at all. I was just flying happily. It was perfectly comfortable. I wasn't thinking about the rudders after the first, say, 15 minutes. And I was absolutely doing various maneuvers that were requiring me to use a lot of rudders. I purposely was trying to get into a lot of short-range knife fights where I needed a lot of rudder motion, doing a lot of things like rolling scissors, things like that, to do my best to use these. And yeah, I just wasn't paying attention to the rudders at all. Everything came very naturally, very quickly. I messed around with the dampener settings. I found that on the dampener on full, they're too stiff to use, for me at least. But with the dampener setting on about half, it just feels perfect. You can feel the centering, so you can get back to center when you need to, but it's really easy to hold a specific position. It feels nice and smooth and natural, and yeah, I was really impressed with these. The other thing that I wanted to bring up there is these are very good at just holding their position. As you could see from the footage at the start of the video, I have my setup on carpet, which I do like having for flight sims. It tends to help keep the chair where I want it and the pedals where I want it. Have moved my setup recently to be further away from the desk, and that has caused issues with the Thrustmaster, because although the Thrustmaster is really big, it's not actually that heavy. It used to be fine because it used to be pushed against the wall, so it wouldn't move at all. But now I've brought it forward a bit, it does tend to slip and slide, and I need to kind of jam it in position a bit better. I've not had an issue with these at all. This has a really heavy base plate, and it just sits where it is on the floor. Now, one thing I do want to mention is, yeah, although it took me like 15 minutes to get used to these, I have been using rudders for a very long time, so if you're wanting to switch over from using a twist stick for your control, then yes, it's going to take you longer to get used to these. Certainly my first set of rudders did take me a while. It's a whole new range of motion that you're trying to tie in with flight sims, but going from a completely different set of rudders to these ones, I caught up there in no time at all, and I find these really comfortable. Even for long sessions, multi-hour sessions, I'm not feeling any strain in my legs or ankles or anything like that, which is something I was worried about with the twisting motion, but no, it's absolutely fine. Now, the toe brakes are a little bit stiffer than I am used to, and I do pay attention to those a little bit more when I'm taxiing around on the ground. I may just need to play with the position of the angle of the toe brakes. They've got 3 positions that you can set them to. I might just need a little bit flatter. I've got them in the middle position right now. All in all, I find that pretty minor because honestly, you're only taxing for a certain amount of time, and it's not that bad having to focus a little bit there. And on half the aircraft that I've got, they don't have toe brakes, they have a clutch brake, and so there's no issue there at all. But then, for the real star of the show, we have to talk about rotary aircraft. Helicopters work lovely with these. This is the part that I was really interested in trying out, was rotary aircraft with these. If you take the spring off, the rudders stay where they are, which, yes, is awkward for fixed-wing planes, but it's fantastic for helicopters, because helicopters in general, they're never quite stable. You always have to be putting in a little bit of rudder in order to counteract the torque being generated by the massive rotor above you. And so with most pedals, what you end up doing is just constantly applying a little bit of force to hold it into a certain position, and various pedals are better or worse at doing that. These, though, with the dampener and no spring, you can just hold in a position. And if you turn the dampener up to full, it is really comfortable to move around. You still have enough of a resistance that you're not accidentally slipping and sliding, so you can hold it perfectly. You can still move it to a new position whenever you want to with very little effort. And then again, it just holds there. This is my first time using this kind of setup, and I am absolutely sold. Honestly, this little session, which you'll see some clips of in the background here, was my favourite session that I've ever had in helicopters in DCS. It was a really fun session, just doing some transport operations on contention. Just put my headset on, my VR headset, set these up, and just had a really fun time. It's really nice controlling helicopters like this. particularly things like landing became so much easier. The helicopter just wanted to stay straight. It wasn't really fighting anywhere near as much as I was used to. Picking up again once you've landed is simple because your rudders are already in the neutral position for low-level flight, so you can just get up without worrying about unwanted twists and turns. Straight and level flight, really nice and simple. You're basically trimming it with the position. I absolutely love these for helicopters. And yes, this is what I am definitely going to use for all of my helicopter sessions going forward. I just think these are absolutely fantastic for that. So then, it's the time of the video where I try and summarise my thoughts and give some general recommendation, which as always has all sorts of qualifications because it really depends on how much money you have to spend and what you've got in your setup right now. I guess the best way to summarise this is to go through what my setup is going forward. I 100% am going to use these WinCtrl rudder and pedal on all of my Rotary stuff going forward. If you see me in a helicopter, I'm using these without the spring. I've just kind of fallen in love with these for that purpose. Now, the nice thing is that they have the exact same USB-B clip as the Thrustmaster, so it's pretty easy to swap and change between them. I just need to change which order they are under my desk. So my original plan was basically, if I'm flying fixed wing, use the Thrustmaster. If I'm using Rotary, use these. Honestly, having tried these quite a lot recently and knowing that I am a little bit on the lazy side, I might just be sticking with these and kind of have my Thrustmaster there as a backup or to gift to my children when the time comes. I'm not sure. I find the Thrustmaster a little bit better for fixed wing, but not by that much. I find these infinitely better for Rotary. Now, I would 100% not recommend you to pick up both the Thrustmaster and the WinCtrl. If you've already got a really nice Thrustmaster set, then yeah, I wouldn't suggest moving over onto these. And unless money is absolutely no factor for you whatsoever, I can't recommend picking up two sets of rudder pedals. If you do want absolutely the best of everything, then yeah, probably using the Thrustmaster pedals and these together for different kinds of aircraft would be ideal. If money is absolutely no issue, link to my Patreon is down below, so check that out. But for everyone else, yeah, I think it would be picking one of these. Thing to note there is the pricing. These are expensive set of pedals. These with the dampener are retailing right now for about £350 UK. Without the dampeners, they're 307 at time of recording. Honestly, I'd get the dampener. It just really makes these pop. Honestly, the dampener is the big feature of this, and I think for less than 40 quid, they're worth it. Now, you can absolutely get cheaper pedals, both from WinCtrl and from all sorts of other suppliers. And yeah, if you're just getting into the hobby and you're not sure, then yeah, probably picking up a cheaper set is a sensible thing to do. If you do know you're going to make this your main hobby and you're looking to get a set of really, really nice pedals, then yes, then I would say it's a choice of the WinCtrl or the Thrustmaster. One thing to note there is the Thrustmaster are more expensive. Right now they're selling for £400 in the UK, and that's marked down on a sale from £470 normally. So that is a fair bit of extra price there. Now, you are getting better fixed wing experience, but that's coming at a cost of not as good Rotary experience. So to kind of sum up then, if you're just getting into the hobby and you don't know that you're wanting to put a huge amount of time and money, probably go for a cheaper set of pedals. If you do want to get yourself a really, really nice set of pedals, honestly, then just think, are you ever going to use Rotary aircraft? If you're ever going to use Rotary aircraft, I'd go for the WinCtrl pieces with these dampeners. If you only fly fixed wing, you only have interest in fixed wing, then yeah, maybe it's worth spending that little bit extra for the Thrustmaster pendular pedals. Now, one final thing just to bear in mind before start wrapping up is that the Cyber Taurus force feedback rudder pedals are coming out. They're the same general design, but instead of just a dampener, you've got a full force feedback unit on the back. As far as I can tell, that is not compatible with these. That's an entire standalone product. They're coming out in the next couple of months, and so maybe you might want to hold off and look at those. I've not tried those at all yet. I've got no idea what they're going to be like. They are significantly more expensive, with the upper range ones pushing £670 in the UK. It's quite a lot. But if you're wanting kind of the ultimate set, then it's probably worth holding off at least seeing what the reviews for those are going to be like. But for today, that is where we're going to be wrapping up there. So yeah, I honestly didn't think I would be all that impressed. Was interested in seeing how these would handle for helicopters. And it turns out I've just kind of fallen in love with them to the point that they may just outright be replacing my other ones. And if not, they're definitely there in the rotation with the other ones. So massive thank you to the folk at WinCtrl for sending those out to me. Really happy with them. And of course, a massive thank you to all of my Patreon and YouTube backers. You people are absolutely amazing and help keep this channel running. If you're interested in helping keep this channel going, then by all means, the Patreon links are down below. And if you want to help the channel without spending a penny of your own money, then please do consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe. All really does help boost the video in the algorithm, and that helps get the attention of various companies to send me these lovely products for review. Finally, as always, remember to be kind to yourselves and everyone else. Cheers.